So watch it afterwards. So welcome everyone to today's session. Let's see how AI will meet compliance, which is a topic that I guess is belonging to every companies today, as EU regulations and also adoption to companies, adoption of AI tools or products into companies increasing, and EU regulation is also an ongoing process. Before we started, I introduce the agenda and the company. I'd like to invite you to follow, maybe actually you can go to the next slide, to follow our channels. Especially we have a quite active group of agentic enthusiasts on LinkedIn. We have a daily update on our LinkedIn page. There you can find all our next events and stay updated with the companies. And then we have also a newsletter from Axel, which is also, let's say, monthly, reaching out with new content, and the Twitter account. I see that a couple of people are new this webinar, so it's worth also to introduce who we are. Next slide, yes. So BlueCallom is an AI company. We are based in Switzerland, Zurich, and we develop enterprise workflow intelligence solutions. These solutions are impossible to be developed with conventional software. We also adopted prompt over code design, which is quite a differentiation also in the market. We aim to empower organizations to achieve those goals that were impossible before. And we will see also later when Axel will introduce the solutions and the platform itself, why we stand out, we are unique in this sense. Axel is the founder or CEO of BlueCallom, and he has a long history of entrepreneurship. He founded 2 multi-billion companies, and one was a Computer 2000, one of the larger technology provider, and as well Infinigate, a security company, now is one of the largest worldwide. What we can say, we are actually very proud of it, is that after 12 months that the platform was launched, we have more than 100 companies on BlueCallom.ai. And we were mentioned this year, Axel also won Most Influential CEO Award, and we are again nominated for German Innovation Award. And soon we will know if we actually won the award in May. Yeah, I guess now we can go quickly through the agenda. So we have a short intro and overview. Axel will explain what's the purpose, the vision that BlueCallom has. Then we will dig into enterprise workflow intelligence, so this magic platform that holds the solutions, but also able to manage AI assets. And then afterwards, we'll introduce these new solutions. It's called BlueCallom Comply. We'll feature what are the components and the peculiarities of this platform. Then you will also see in a live demo. We will feature also a couple of use cases so that you know how this solution can be used and who is actually the main user of this platform. And afterwards, there will be also an overview on the management platform, what's the tech stack behind the platform, and some implementation examples. The session should be closing with a Q&A session, but I always invite you to raise your hand, to write in the comment, and if I can also unmute you and you can ask the question yourself. Axel will be talking, usually speaks a lot, but I will find a way to jump in and ask a question. Okay, so let's get started, and I wish you a nice webinar.
All right, thank you so much, Stefania, and thanks everybody, and hello for joining. I think we have quite an interesting and exciting announcement in two different directions. The product, but also how we built the product and what this means for the future of not only AI, basically the future of software. So like Stefania said, so our top purpose has evolved from agentic AI. That was our focus. And I mean, technology-wise, this is still our focus. But we have evolved, and we saw in the applications that we built and in the problems that larger companies have, and larger companies we call a 500 company till 50,000. Those are larger companies, enterprises, and we divided in small, medium, and large enterprises. But what they have is basically across the world and across all industries, and growing challenge with their workflows. And this came up in many discussions with CEOs, with board members, with department managers, who said, well, we need to fix our little problems internally first. And when we realized that these internal problems, these little problems, are basically process issues. And process issues are based on the process is not done well, the process is no longer actually valid. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. And then we came to the conclusion that was really interesting, because people talk about, well, we have a very intelligent process because it's computer supported. But when we look at what it actually is in that process that is intelligent, it's only the human. And that means we're basically using our intelligence for tiny little things that cause friction. And that drove the idea that we can actually do so much better with agents and so on. And so the enterprise workflow intelligence focus has risen up, and in the last couple of months, actually dramatically, because that was the entry for many of the projects we're working on today. So this is the purpose was actually found by our customers. Well, this is the thing that you guys do really well. And so we learn from our customers, and we define, I mean, they define, not our case, especially in any case, the market. So the strategic business results we're basically driving and creating is measurable productivity. And that was from the very first day almost a big deal, because when we started, we realized that ChatGPT was a cool tool. It changed the world and continues to change the world. But one of the key challenges in business is the prompt, and this is how it started with prompts. Is the prompt actually driving productivity, or is this just a marketing boo-boo? And so we realized we need to measure it, and those of you who follow us for a while, they know we can. And so it's not only the prompts, it's also the agents, it's even the multi-agent solutions. So productivity gains is one of the strategic results of what we're doing. Another one is generating significant competitive advantage. So when you get significantly more faster, and faster than anybody else who is already very fast, well, this is a competitive advantage that is extremely hard to catch. And during the presentation, I will show a couple of examples also what the outcome of significant speed is. And I love the word significant in this case, because it's not the marketing, oh, we're much faster than. What is much faster? Is it a little bit? Is it more? Or is it actually significant? So, and the result of both of the top things, productivity and competitive advantage, is something that we were fearing that people, I mean, particularly employees, would not like to see, all the productivity stuff, and we need to work anyway already so hard, so now we need to work even harder. And we realized that many employees who became familiar with AI enjoyed it, because it was actually taking away the boring jobs and allowed to do more creative and more intelligent jobs, more things that their talent was actually put into the work. And the result is that we see then in businesses today, businesses can do far more with no additional people. So we're not killing jobs. In no case so far we see the killing of jobs, but that the current companies can do with the same resources way more than others. And that competitive advantage is not only the business advantage, but actually also an advantage for employees. And so the bigger picture, and this sort of the long-term view, has one name: human intelligence augmentation. It doesn't come from us. It was from a guy by the name of Douglas Engelbart already in 1962. So he was working on a research lab, and had for that access to, back then, the most powerful IBM computer. And he was realizing that when we get to AI one day, didn't even really exist back then this would be the most powerful tool that humanity ever developed. Because he realized back then, even without seeing it, I mean, we're basically fulfilling his vision, I believe. He saw that augmenting the intelligence of a human with something more is very much like augmenting our muscles with something more. And so we took this big picture and sort of thought, this kind of a Silicon Valley behavior, stepping on the shoulders of giants. I mean, there's people who thought so many things before us, and stopping on top of it and building it, because technology has, also growth paths. And so this is our direction. And I just want to mention it so that you know where we're coming from, or sort of where we're going. So enterprise workflow intelligence means that we put literally intelligence into the workflow. It isn't the computer, because the computer that we use, all of us, and if we're very clear about it, we type something in, and everything the computer has in the database is what we typed in. But what it has in the database, the computer itself can only spit it out in various ways, however we programmed it. But it cannot think, it cannot reason, it cannot construct new thoughts. It just does whatever we put in, we put out. And if this is not organized well, we say garbage in, garbage out. Now with AI, this will be changed, but that's a different story. So when we look into enterprise workflow intelligence, so we basically no longer just prompts or single agents. This workflow intelligence makes an entire process, and probably in the next 2, maybe 5 years, maybe even 1 year, a non-stop autonomous workflow operation. Because the workflow, when it becomes intelligence, it can continuously work, can continuously improve. It can continuously trigger us. Hey, this is the next task, or here's somebody else had this idea, and you will see it how we put innovation, everything together. So no longer just prompts and single agents. It's an entire workflow through the company. So there's also no more linear mechanisms and automation. I was invited to a call and to a speech, and somebody said, "Yeah, you should talk to this new way of automation." And I said, "No, I wouldn't do that. There is no automation anymore. The automation was when somebody put data in, and automatically something happens to these data, programmed, defined very strictly, and then there's some output. But we're going to a next era where it's no longer automation, it's actually a workflow that is equally intelligent to humans. But humans have an intent to do something that has not been created on an AI yet. So if we fuse a human and an AI, then we would actually go away from linear thinking, from step by step. We can look into much bigger things. And we replace basically stiff and fixed processes. And I explain that because all of this has a big impact to understand what we're doing next. And next is the product we're introducing today, which is Comply. Compliance management was this monster, and I remember when Christian, our VP product said, we should do something on compliance. And I said, oh, Christian, come on. This is one of these monsters. I don't even want to touch it right now. But then we realized when we had to be compliant to the EU AI Act that we have to face it. And so we realized that these stiff fixed processes within organizations are just one of the biggest drag down in all of these things, including how we work with and how complicated we make compliance. So the other thing is, instead of asking management to review something, and this goes back to compliance, the AI can do actually a first very profound review and provide the results of the preview to the management. And if the management understands, and this the onus is unto us, that we make it very clear what comply actually does, how it works internally, what data it takes, what mechanisms it's using. So a manager can say, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. It seems that the low risk factor is there, and boom, click, and done. So this is human intelligence augmentation, because otherwise we have to study, I think right now it's 500 pages. There's sub-pages with links where we all have to go through to understand what it is. But the worst thing is, in the fall this year, we will probably have a new release, and then we have to start all over again. We have an army of people to actually ensure that our compliance to something is basically in sync. And this is work that has nothing to do with real human intelligence. It has nothing to do with our way of fulfilling a purpose, all these kind of acts. This is just reading and comparing and reading and comparing and then hoping it works. So we can get rid of that. Ending repeat computing feed processes. So there's another interesting thing that we learned through our work, is that we can, and we could, and we should actually use AI to feed data into your existing data infrastructure. And this is what we begin to do. And that means that the data that is fed in may be as complicated or complicated to put in, or maybe error prone, because if you have multiple systems and one has, I mean, just as simple as numeric article codes versus alphanumeric article codes, then the AI need to decide whether it uses this or the other because it's not cleaned up. Now you say, no, this is why we need to clean it up. And here's an interesting thought. We don't need to do that. An AI is smart enough to understand that this and this is the same thing. It's easy to understand for the computer whether this is an email address or not, whether this is a Gmail address or a business email address. It's easy enough to understand whether this is a phone number from the US or a phone number from Tahiti or a phone number from somewhere else. It's easy to understand for an AI to understand whether this is a description for a product or whether this is a use case of a product. Now, when we follow this thought, then we were actually beginning to find out ways to leave the data as is and just use it in an intelligent way. Big difference. The next is the new workflow obviously makes things much faster and finally intelligent. So the employee's focus is on the intent and on the output of what it should do, rather than thinking through, oh gosh, what do I all have to think about if I want to do this or that. So this sounds all cool. On the other hand, the naysayers would say, yeah, but this is not perfect. This is by far not perfect. We cannot rely on this. And so my answer is correct. You cannot rely on it. But there's one thing that I learned in my life. If I have something that I have to check whether it's right or wrong, it takes me a fraction of the time versus I have it not and need to build it first. And I read yesterday, I think, something very cool, or that actually was a clip on TikTok saying, there's two ways of building rockets. One is exploding 10 rockets and have within 2 years a rocket that can pull people out of a space station in an almost emergency because the other rockets didn't work, or you build the perfect rocket and after 10 years you find out it actually didn't really work. And that's the difference in thinking. And now we need to decide which we want to do, one or the other. And there's a risk assessment and there's things to do in between. But I believe the future is to actually trust that we understand what the AI actually says. And that trust is much smaller and much less error prone and much less biased than the bias of a human. And we love to talk about the AI is biased. Of course it is biased because it's written by humans. And if this human would be, somebody who put malicious things into the world, I mean, we would find this out relatively quickly. And so the decision to work with generative AI in general or agentic AI is basically to compare the human biases, the human error with machine error and human machine bias, and then pick whatever we think is right for us. But the most important thing is we have to understand what's going on. And so in the next couple of years, humans will become managers of their agents. And I like that understanding because also a manager, if this is a good manager, understands what people are doing. I always said, I want employees that are smarter than me and better than me in their specific arena. And I believe this is totally fair. And this is the way I find people that are better than me. And my capability or my talent is to find these people and put them together in a team. Now, when we translate this to almost everybody, then there will be agents, they are better than they, but they are the ones who manage them. Okay, so far the intro to enterprise workflow intelligence, and here's a quick chart. So it's truly enterprise. It goes to all departments, and I show this because what I learned actually from us internally. That when somebody like in the product management team or in the engineering team or in a process management team and so on needs to make sure that what they build or do or change is compliant to whatever the compliance act is, they need to go up to the compliance managers and say, okay, this is what we want to do. Here's the mechanism. And then this is a delay of probably, I mean, in the best case, a couple of days, worst case, a couple of weeks, and everything in between. So why not empower them to have at least a preview of an AI system to say, well, this is still risky or this is actually low risk. This is what you need to do in order to make it less risky. And this is what you need to do to, think forward and help your team understand what you did. When we take that mechanism, then we can actually bring comply and compliance acts into a complete workflow within an organization. And this is the key of our solution. Self-service empowered employees can check whether their compliance act, so to speak, not the act, whether their work is compliant with a compliance act. They can check if the product they build or the process they build or the change they made is most likely okay. And if not, well, then there's already an indicator right there. In any case, they will probably need a human oversight, and the human finally agrees or not agrees. But within a structure that is larger than 500 employees, it becomes problematic and it becomes a time delay. And time delay means later to market. And time to market is critical for all of us. And so you now see why enterprise workflow intelligence is a critical part of compliance. Because if we can get this done quickly enough, then we have a problem. Okay, so when we look into an organization, we have basically a structure, and this is our general view and our general aim is to have in all the departments intelligence workflow elements, flow in logistics, transform in the facilities, comply in operations, another transform in HR, maybe control on the finance side, disrupt, and these are all the products that we're actually working on or already have in the market. So now let me dive into comply, what it does. So maybe, are there any questions so far before I run too fast?
Not currently.
Cool. Thank you. So comply basically is an AI solution. So there's a human intent from the compliance management saying, okay, this is what we are required to be compliant with. If we take the EU AI Act, that's publicly available. It's a big document and has its structure. And this is what we in this case of comply. And this is the first version. Is this with the AI Act? We will build other versions for other compliance reasons, all the way to custom compliance management. But it will need to give the system what you're actually facing, and we build a custom model basically where when another human, and this is probably the product manager or the R&D manager or anybody who has something that needs to be compliant. And this can be a process, doesn't need to be a product. And so they can do the assessment, look at the assessment is the AI engine that looks into the model, looks into external APIs, comes back, and then makes the analysis of the compliance resolution. So and this is not a yes or no, it is basically, is there a low risk, is there medium risk or high risk? And for every types of risks is an explanation and also suggestion. And so once this is completed, the results go directly back to the human person who actually has the compliance request, and at the same time to the compliance manager for review. So these are two important human interaction points, as we call it in the AI world. And then the manager would say, okay, here's my decision. Come to me, speak to me. I need a little bit more information. And only then, the person would actually have a meeting and explain exactly what they're doing. Otherwise, the computer the AI system would be smart enough to give the necessary information to the manager, so that the manager says, yeah, this is reasonable, this is all good. Keep watching it, but you're good for now. And so that human person could actually continue his work instantaneously. And what I learned from Yannick, our sales manager, he told me he has been in this situation. He explained it to us very well. And so we said, well, the biggest problem in compliance is not so much that we have to be compliant. The biggest problem is to see whether we are compliant or not. How fast can we figure out, and how fast can we get a suggestion what we need to do to be compliant? And AI is a perfect instrument for that. It doesn't replace humans, for sure, but it also helps us to be way faster. And so after the setup, the team invitation of people to allow to access the system, and running through the process, we can very quickly understand whether we are compliant or not. And if we're not, then again, the suggestion, what we have to do to get there. And so this is it's not to circumvent compliance rules. It's actually to amplify it to a degree that would not have been possible without AI. And so from a user experience point of view, you may have seen this image in other presentations. That's all what it is. It shows you the process. It shows you the workflow. It asks you something. Okay, what is what you're doing, and then you enter it. And then there's a couple questions basically in alignment with a risk assessment that you answer. It's typically 4 or 5 questions, and within 10 seconds later, or maybe a minute later or two, you get the answer, and then you know what to do. And if you get the email from your boss, okay, go ahead, then you go ahead. If you know it's basically a low risk, the manager has not been approved it yet, the person at least can actually continue to work. I mean, they wouldn't bring it to market, or they wouldn't introduce it to a team, or whatever the output would be. But they would at least understand, okay, the likelihood that this is okay is very high. And if there's something that I need to fix because the manager said, this needs to be fixed, well, this is basically, within the reasons of, okay, I mean, yeah, of course we fix it. Versus, I have no idea, I can't work. I mean, I can't do anything. So I start working something else. And if later on comes a couple of days or a week later or so, well, then you already are on this other project, and maybe you want to finish it before you finish this one. And these types of workflow conflicts are basically what we're almost dedicated our work to, saying this is how we want to do it. So let me show you real quick how this actually works. Share this in a tab. So you should see our normal home interface. I go to agents and I take comply. I believe this is the right one. I could execute. And so when I execute it, I mean, as you already see, I don't have to create anything. Here's a formatting section. That is something we have for those. This is just for the demo for those who are interested. We do formatting in order to get really good outputs. So that's one of the things that we did, because when you do it with the normal API, it's probably very difficult to do. Give it a name. This is no comply, and check for AU AI Act, and then submit. And so now you see it goes through several agent positions. So now I'd ask, in which sector will the AI system be developed? And then I say, let's say this is admin. What is it? Oh no, this is legal departments. Okay. And so it asked me a couple questions, which I only understand when I saw many outputs. Now, the users, are they informed that they are interacting? Yes, they are. And when I, depending on what the compliance regulations are, obviously the questions would be very different. What type of data does your AI system process? Machine developed agents data. So now I'm actually not sure whether I need to do something if we do that, because a couple of these things are more critical than others. Then is the AI system fully automated, or is it human oversight? Now we have always human interaction points. Okay. And so on the top here, you see how the process goes on. So I know there's still something coming. Press submit to generate the risk assessment. Okay, I will do that. So, and there are multiple options to actually design this or also structure it. You can put, sort of the compliance answers if you know the questions in one field and let it go autonomously. meaning it just does the job, or it's an interaction. In some cases, like here, the interaction actually triggers also the questions. So therefore, we go through a dialogue. I mean, that's so-called conversational AI. And so here it talks about the risk, makes an executive summary, new comply overview, risk classes. And so it says, okay, inaccurate interpretation of AI Act requirements leading to potential compliance errors. So the regulation risk is high. So there's something that it didn't like, and we'll get to that. Dependence, machine dependent, that's medium, and then human interaction dependency because of the not all autonomous makes it actually a low risk. And so then we go further. So we now wanted to generate the recommendations. And this is where I will learn what triggered it to have a high risk in this case. And I have to tell you, when I do these demos, or anybody in our company, we had all kinds of outputs from low, 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 low to high, 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 high. And it's interesting that we obviously also learn from, what we're doing here. So here's the recommendations is that the comprehensive review and upgrade of current data processes and human interactions. This should be indicating the data accuracy and so on. And so it was, these steps are critical in mitigating regulation risks. And so we have to do something there. Implementation steps to do that. And then the implementation roadmap, in which steps we should do it. And you see also there's a timeline. And that's interesting because also on the regulation, there's a timeline when you are not compliant, how fast you need to fix it. Obviously, there are sometimes, I have seen that too, that the timeline was 0 months. You have to do it right away. Or there is a situation, for instance, when when people involved are not informed about AI, it would say this is a no-go. You have to fix it right away before you do anything else. And so this is the output, and people can basically now, with what they do, work with it, wait for a manager, and the manager on the other side, when they're trained on how this thing works, they would realize, okay, I can rely on it to a larger degree. I will need to look at it anytime anyway. But when I have something to read through for possible correction, is entirely different than I read through something, or I actually write my own document about the compliance with the product that we're building. And this is what most people today have to do. So with that, going back to presentation mode. So you see how it works, and you also can imagine now this, I haven't stopped the time. I think it took me 5 minutes to go through that. And if you get a little bit routine, you know the questions already, and it goes even faster. Now there are a couple of use cases, and I have two that we found interesting and we see in the market. One is how the AI solution or the product is actually meeting the AI regulation. So this is product driven. So you created a product, or you have a product that you want to make sure that this is compliant. And I run through, in the interest of time, workflow compliance. That's another thing, because if you have a workflow almost independent of our product may be compliant, because if we ran obviously all our products through this system as well. But then the big difference is we can say we checked it for workflow for compliance with the EU AI Act. But then how you use it, and this part of AI, is how you use it is different. So if you don't inform people that, that they're working on an AI, then this is something where you need to make sure that you do. And so the workflow compliance is basically another use case. Also, you will see from the outcome what it does and where you use it and so on, that there are corresponding answers. So those are the two major aspects. I mean, there could be other things, like you have a machine that you bought that has AI, and there is one person and he's trained, but then you still may want to know, okay, if I put another person in, does that work out or not? You run it really quickly through it. I think it's one run from a pricing point of view is about 100 something euro, francs, or dollars. And so it isn't that huge amount of cost, but you want to make sure that you're compliant with what you're doing. And so here's the
Axel, we have a couple of questions.
okay.
Yes, so the first is, does comply also support in required official reporting, for instance, CSRD, so Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive?
Okay, so right now we call it comply-AI because it's focused on the AI case. This is how we set it up. But the mechanism, what you see here on the flow chart, this would obviously also be applicable for other types of compliances. But these are the types of compliances, meaning the document that describes the compliance need to be uploaded, and then there are some functions we need to implement for different compliance regulations, all the way to custom. This would be probably the last product that we're introducing, where you have both on the custom model and also on the assessment certain customization functions, which we unfortunately don't have today. But this will come. So we explicitly say comply-AI, whatever other rules and regulations are, because they need to be customized to the compliance case.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess you also answered the second one, because so pretty much related. So if can comply be used for different compliance issues like required for ESG?
Yeah, so this will come. And this is also something, if you have such a case, just let us know. I mean, we would love to work with you on other cases. And like everything AI is very much dependent on domain expertise. And people who are really good in building solutions are probably not very good in all the domains in the world. And so these two groups need to work together.
Thank you.
Okay. And so real quick about the teams. So compliance, there's typically 3 types of groups working within. Executives, this can be a chief compliance officer, this can be the COO. I mean, everybody who is feeling responsible for that compliance is in the right place in their organization. Then it's the department leaders who work on things that need to be compliant, and obviously the teams. And this comes back to empowerment. I mean, AI is a tool where empowerment of teams makes a huge difference. I mean, you can empower teams to do something or not. But with AI, it makes it easier because you can actually shape it better than, just hoping everything works out and that you thought of everything. So these are the 3 groups who are working on compliance and comply. And so since we don't have the old SaaS model, like license-based, we have pay-per-use. So when you use it, there's a payment. And if you don't use it, you can have 10,000 employees on it. You wouldn't pay a dime for them unless they use this, meaning Productivity is in an instant because we measure the productivity of the prompt or of the agent or of the solution. And so we believe this is a very fair and transparent business model. So this is, for instance, when you want to see what's going on, this goes across all applications. But here you would see, or the IT guys would see, okay, what is actually used and how often, and what is the degree of productivity. And so here's a small outlier, so very top, and here's the big one. And these are not faked or custom data. These are actually our internal data. And I was actually looking myself, oh, what is this little thing up there and why is it there? And so the interesting thing is that we have different data aspects like the reviews from employees. This is the color. We have the degree of the curve. We have the X and the Y axis, and then we have the size of these objects. So this is one way of managing everything. In particular, the productivity part is probably the most important for many people. Just real quick, in case you're interested in the tech stack. So everything right now is built on OpenAI. So we take this through the AI, very much like ChatGPT sits on here. We have our data layer. We have a multi-tenant design, which means we have multi-tenants on our platform. So it's very much like Salesforce, or the new SAP systems are also completely online. So multi-tenancy is there. And then the structure, the technology insights, and so on, all the way up to the UI, UX, basically the front end. Now, we have been oftentimes asked, do we also support other systems? So the answer is yes. DeepSeek, which is running actually on our systems. It's not publicly available, only on demand, because we need to scale the CPU power accordingly. Then Perplexity is something we're working on, Gemini as well, and others will come. But these here, they will be probably available any soon. And also there's another one that is not listed. No, it's listed here, but it moves over here. It's Mistral, just because of the European, European companies love to have the data in European companies. So that's the organization, and a couple, implementation examples. We typically would start with an implementation strategy, and we call it implementation strategy and not AI strategy, because many have an AI strategy. The companies who have spent, 3-digit millions into an AI strategy, so we don't want to touch this. But we believe it makes sense now with an actual enterprise solution that you make a strategy how you will put it in. And I can tell you this is way easier than you think, because it's basically less complex than a Salesforce.com, because this is all still conventional code. So you have to define a lot of rules and regulations and so forth, which AI can help you very simple by telling them what you want to do and what your intent is, and it does it for you. Deployment would look like basically when you say, okay, let's go, we would start with a half-day workshop so that everybody who is involved understands exactly what's going on. Then we introduce it, or you introduce it to your team, to the people who are sort of the players in this world. Then obviously in this case, comply would check comply. No, we would put everything we would put in, we would run through comply together with you to see and learn what's your specific case, and if there's anything that pops, that we're able to react very quickly. Then the alignment is basically you align your solution and your initial setup with what the team thinks and needs and so on. Also, that this goes in line with your IT structure and strategy. And then BlueCallom AI guided customization. So we use an AI to actually help with the customization. And This is what I said in the beginning when we talk about speed. We built our new solutions, and Comply is the first one of it, with agents. So we have a maker agent. We developed this over the last months and almost half a year. And so the solutions that we're selling are built by AI. And that allows us, when people ask, how can you do a new product every month? I mean, enterprise product. This either it's not enterprise and it's just a prompt, or can be. Well, yes, it can. And our system actually builds even multi-agent solutions. This is one thing of AI. I mean, when AI starts building itself, and this is what we're doing, time is a new dimension, really is, also for us. Now, the customization part is something, I mean, we're promoting that this thing, whatever we sell, is out of the box, and it's true. However, and you know this from everything else at IT, there are things that you want to have fit and match your current internal organization. And so we're basically saying this up front. We will need to customize also an AI solution to your needs and dreams and whatever you want. The big advantage also here is our capability to do this much faster than ever before. So this is not a multi-million-dollar thing. We can do this probably in a few weeks or even days. And then the question is expansion. And expansion, like I said it just a couple of minutes ago, is very easy, very fast. And this is the biggest benefit also for us, is that you don't pay for licenses. Because our benefit is that you're not fearful to invest in licenses for people that may not or just very rarely use it. We want you to have everybody use it, and don't limit your own potential for productivity. And we get basically paid whenever it's used. And it's used meaning whenever somebody hits a submit button, then we get a tiny fraction of it. And that's how the system works. Sorry, I need to just kill this here. So, and just before we go into Q&A, two events. We have an online product intro on May 20. I'm not telling you what it is right now, but it's a monster built on top of everything. And the other thing is the AI Cloud Summit in Düsseldorf. I think this would be a cool event for you, because already there's I think everybody and their dog in terms of AI is there. We're there. And let us know if you can come, so that we can prepare possible things for you to show. We also do personal meetings where we can show things that are maybe not in the market yet, but important for your development going forward. So it will be a very cool event. It's sponsored by Microsoft. So I believe that pretty much everybody, Microsoft and AI, will be there, both from the customer side and also from the exhibitor side. So it will be a cool one. Okay.
Yes, just to add a little note, we have also 20% discount code, as we are gold sponsor of the exhibition. So if anyone want to join, just get in touch with us. And I would like to add also another event that we have on May 8, which is Enterprise Workflow Intelligence. It's a webinar dedicated to the...
Very important.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. So if we have questions, now is the time for you to share opinions, feelings about the solutions. I'm surprised because we did in 1 hour this time, so it was very well done, Axel.
Usually I'm always too late, so I'm happy I made it.
Yes.
All right, super. Yeah, if there are no questions, we don't want to eat up your time. Thank you very much from my side, and hope to see you April 8th. No, what is it? May 8th, right?
May 8th.
May
Yes.
8th, yeah. So May 8th is the official introduction of enterprise workflow intelligence, our EV program.
Exactly.
Okay.
Great.
Super. Okay, dog. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter, for the call.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Till the next time.